Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
I just want to say thanks to everybody this morning for tuning into the Juice. We've got a great panel this morning. We're talking to restaurant owners who clearly have, out of probably any industry that has been affected by the pandemic, the restaurant industry has been one that's been extremely vulnerable and affected. So we had James and Vincent on here back in March or April, I think. Darel wasn't on the original panel, but we want to kind of go back and talk about what this past almost year has been like for everybody. And then kind of thoughts on what things are going to look like in the restaurant industry moving forward this year and then beyond. So I'm very grateful to have you all this morning. So we've got Vincent from IRIE. So you guys can hear me?
Breaking up a little bit.
Breaking up a little bit, by I'm here.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. And so going back, we've got Vincent from IRIE Kitchen, James from Essence Restaurant Group, and Darel Ross from 40 Acres. So what I'd like to do is start out with just having each one of you kind of give us a little bit of an update of what's been going on the last year. We've got a lot of different topics we can cover. We can talk about trends. So I think this is going to be a pretty free-flowing discussion. So anyway, why don't we start with Vincent?
Hey everybody, am I just doing an intro?
Yeah.
Owner of IRIE Kitchen. Been in business for about 3.5 years. We're out in like Caledonia. We do takeout, we do Jamaican food, and it's been a great ride. And pandemic hit last year, and so happy that we're still here and we're just continuing to figure out what's next for us.
Okay. Why don't we go with James?
James from Essence Restaurant Group. We own and operate Bistro Bella Vita. Going into our almost 25th year this year at some point after March, which would be crazy. The Green Well, we opened 2007. And Grove, which is currently closed. We'll have some exciting news about what we're doing with that location later this year. So yeah, we've, like all of us here, it's just been a really unique struggle. We've been closed 5.5 months since this started, as far as being able to serve in-store dining. So yeah, we're looking, hopefully, we said to the team when we open back up, this is the new beginning, and knock on wood that we're not looking backwards anymore. We're going forward. So
yeah. Darel.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have some audio issues, so I think we're doing introductions. Darel Ross with 40 Acres Soul Kitchen, located in Grand Rapids on Wealthy Street. We've been doing takeout and curbside, but similar to James, been pretty much closed for the duration of COVID.
Okay. So given the restaurants, that restaurants could open this week at 25% capacity, how has that impacted what you're doing? Just give me a little bit of a rundown of, kind of what you've been through as far as open, closed, all that good stuff. And then what are you doing right now? Anybody?
For me, I'm primarily takeout. And so 25% in theory sounds great. But the thing is, we're in my spot right now. It's pretty small. I don't have a big spot like James or Darel. So doing sit down at 25%, we're talking about 4 people max maybe, will probably more of a hindrance than like a cool opportunity. And I don't want anybody's experience at my spot to be not amazing because I only have that one time to get them back. So I do think for people who are bigger, it could be an opportunity. But again, it's like staff, managing, getting it back into the flow of things. Can you get your staff excited? Are waiters going to make less money but do the same hours? Like, how are we going to make it make sense for everybody involved. I know the customers want to go back out there, right? But on the back end of the business side, I think maybe Darel and James can lead more into it of how it makes more sense. Like, I don't know how. For me, it's like I hope people still care about takeout once it's 25%. People get mad at me that I'm not doing it. That's the only thing that I'm worried about in the short term. So.
Yeah, for 40 acres, it didn't matter. There is no per se 25% business model. I think for us, just like Vince said, it just is an inconvenience. We would have to still run full back of the house. We'd bring in some front of the house before the spacing and so forth. Really messes up the experience. Plus, in our unique situation, we are, minority owned, minority staffed. It's probably just not the smartest thing to do. So, just out of social responsibility, we're not into, congregating large people around. So we've been pretty much, regardless of what the state has said, I mean, going off of science. So our number is under 5%. When you get to 3%, you'll see 40 acres open. 100% doesn't mean we'll still do the takeout and curbside and so forth, but we think our responsibility to our staff and to the community trumps any type of financial gain or business at this point. And again, we have a very unique constituency, so that's a consideration we had to take into account.
Mm-hmm.
We've been, since the original shutdown, we closed the first 3 months. We just had Greenwell open for carryout. And then when we're able to open sometime, it seems like July or June, we had opened Greenwell first and then Bistro for in-store dining. And then when so at that 50%, and we built a really good business. And, during that whole time, as far as, working in the industry with our staff, and we've had, we're a big restaurant. Bistro, Greenwell had zero COVID, transmission in the restaurant between staff, just following the protocols, the safety protocols that we follow, and just adding the masks was a, just for us, from a safety standpoint, there was zero. Mm-hmm. And so when we had to re-shut down again, that really, we kept Bistro going to go only in Greenwell. We were able to still sit outside. People were amazingly, still to this day, are still sitting outside when it's freezing weather. So Greenwell, we've been able to do about 80% of our normal sales during the shutdown because we have people sitting outside plus a to-go business. Where Bistro, it's like a fraction. But we wanted to keep the momentum going, knowing when we opened, we didn't have to start flat-footed for right. Bistro. So at the 25%, Greenwell, it's a small space. I know Darel's restaurant is, it's probably the similar size dining room. So it's like we can get like 25 people in there. But people still sit outside, and we still have the good to-go business. Now this week, because people are going back out, that to-go is going to go down a little bit. But, this weekend when the weather looks horrible,
right,
you're going to see a little that to-go. But the to-go is here to stay. It's not going to be – when we reopened, we were still doing, 15% of our sales like that Greenwell as a carryout. And you just need to, that's going to be something that will be there regardless of the pandemic, as long as you're able to meet that demand. Because the people still eat. The same amount of people are eating. It's the demand's there. It's our job to shift to it. Mm-hmm. And to Darel's point too, it's like we all have unique situations, how comfortable we are as far as how we operate. So like Grove, we closed because it is too small. Mm-hmm. And we just did not feel comfortable with operating that restaurant in the pandemic. So when we're able to mitigate the spread of this thing, then that's something that, we'll open later this year. So.
And you bring up a good point too. It does kind of depend on your business model. So 40 was always designed with robust takeout, where it was always 30 to 40% of our business model. So I do think, in retrospect, we were able to just when we keep to go going, it's just part of what we were doing anyway. And we originally opened those first couple months as just carry out. I think and James can probably speak to this more. He has way more experience as a restaurateur. I think if there's a silver lining, a lot of restaurants open their dining room first and then try to figure out takeout and carry out. I think the restaurants that make it now will have a more blended business model, because I do think the carry out and curbside is going to be a permanent fixture in restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, the industry was shifting before this. The technology side of it, we talked about this last time, was shifting, where people are, as millennials became the largest population, and as they moved into their later 30s, and into their more professional career paying jobs, and they were started to infiltrate our industry, and they're comfortable with technology, and how they eat is different. So to Darel's 100%, if we had a plan for a carry out and online business plan for both restaurants, not grow, that's a different experience. So when the pandemic hit, we were already in the cloud. We are in a open platform POS system. So we're able to grow into this pretty quickly, and we weren't caught flat-footed. And so we were prepared for it. And I think going forward, if you don't include that, now some, like a Grove, can exist on its own, but again, that's part of a larger collection of restaurants. So I'm able to pull that off eventually when we can open that again. But yeah, you have to have some type of other way of broadening your band to your customers, because if you don't, they're going to go somewhere else. That's that simple.
Yeah.
And Vince was young and smart enough to do it right from the beginning. So he had that business model.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a small imprint, small restaurant, easier to run. I would say that 80% of my business was takeout, and the rest was catering. My only issue is that I'm so far away from the people, so Uber does not help me. So I'm lucky for me, I'm cool on the internet, so people are willing to drive 40 minutes to eat my food. So that's about it. That's my only struggle, was just location based. Like, what I had to do is, I went to weekends only, so I made my food kind of exclusive. Again, taking that young person mentality. I don't know if you guys know what Supreme is or anything like that, but anything that's exclusive in my community, like, young people love it. And so I went to 3 days a week, and we're doing 1 day like a week for us right now. So we're definitely crushing it. So, but I need to get closer. That's my whole thing, because I feel like I get closer, it'll be even better. So yeah.
I just want to welcome Gricelda this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Good
morning.
Morning. I apologize for being late.
No worries, absolutely not. We just kind of did a little update, and then we kind of morphed into a discussion about takeout. So why don't you just let us know what's been going on with you since we talked, like, back in March and April.
Wow. I don't know if we have enough time.
I know.
As everybody here knows, so many things have been going on. Well, we are open right now at 25%. We've been doing takeout. We've been following the guidelines. If they allow us to open, we open. If they tell us we have to shut down, we shut down. So we were open for dining at 50% back in, what was it, September, October, something like that. And we were also doing takeout. We did sign out with DoorDash, which in normal times is something that I would never do. And so we've been trying to do as much as we can just to stay afloat. And so, it's when we were open for dining at 50%, we had such a great response. And I will tell you that I was doing very close to what I was doing before. With all the takeout and the dining at 50%. So I feel very blessed from all the support that we've had from our customers. It's just been great. Unfortunately, they shut us down. And so we went back to just takeout, DoorDash. I did implement online ordering, which has been a great thing for us. And so that's kind of like what we've been doing overall. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've got some questions, and Murphy said we've got some questions that are coming in. So why don't we see what people are asking?
One that's related to what you guys have been talking about. You've obviously been talking about the importance of takeout moving forward, and someone asked, other than that, what are some of the changes you have had to make during the pandemic that will carry over post-pandemic?
Well, kind of what we've been talking about. It was interesting stat in the last quarter of 2020. There were 20% or 10% more new restaurants opening in the United States than the previous year, which is in the middle of a pandemic, could make your head scratch. But below the surface, they're just seeing this opportunity to get into this to-go thing and carry out business, which I think is a bit short-minded because it's going to be a part of the industry. But, the people are going to go back out to eat. Like we were talking before, Darel and I, the blend, you're just going to have to blend it into your business. But that was pretty unique. But, the thing for us, it's not so much new. It's just a continuation of adding, we created an online store, which we had planned to do pre-pandemic through Shopify with our open platform. So we'll have the ability to ship wine anywhere in the world. We're having a food, we'll have a couple of meals coming out in a couple of weeks where a subscription meal service that'll be under the Bistro brand. So stuff like that will continue, and it's all in all of our order carryout's been online. So, and we've introduced a loyalty app as well, where all that can be ordered through the Essence Central Rewards app. So those are just things that we're able to really focus on, especially when we're being closed, to really developing these things that will continue to be a part of our brands, just extending our brand to many, just lowering the barriers to get to use our restaurants through technology.
Yeah, and I have to, agree with James. Technology has been a huge thing for us as well. I am learning to love technology more and more every day. It could be a headache when it wants to be a headache, but it could be great when you utilize it. And so we've implemented more apps, as a matter of fact, and online ordering was something that I have been thinking about doing, but it's one of those things that you have in your to-do list, right? And you always say, oh, I don't have time for it yet. I don't have time for it. So the pandemic kind of like made time for it now. Okay, you need to do it now. You have no excuse. So that's one thing that I implemented and has been great, that I do plan to continue on doing that because it's been received greatly with our guests. And I think that everyone here will agree. Online ordering has been a great thing for all of us. And the other thing that I've implemented that I plan on continuing is the texting part of it as far as the takeout goes. I have an app that I will just utilize to send text to customers, letting them know, hey, your order is ready. Please come inside or pull up to the curbside pickup lane. So that's something that we're going to continue because we see that it's something that it's working. So yeah, and the other thing I did too was I put a drive-through window in my patio. I know, you gotta be creative. So I actually applied for a grant that was out there. I found that would reimburse me if I implemented something to increase my sales, which, carry out and drive through. So I applied and I did that drive-through window in the patio covered, thinking again, the weather to protect my staff as well. It's cold out there when you go outside. So, and yeah, I was reimbursed. And so I'm happy I did that. I don't think that is something that will stay there just because when the summer comes, I might have to remove it just to sit outside. But it was a temporary thing that I did. And yeah, I'm happy I did that.
That's great.
Yeah, for 40 acres, I think not everything's different, but we wanted to make sure we took the past year to really go back to the lab and look at the model. A lot of our stuff, we were already doing online ordering and so forth. So for a lot of us, for our team, it was how do we just shore up some stuff and get better at everything we do. especially food. At the end of the day, we're in food and drink. It's not really that complicated, right? But everything's kind of shifting to go or whatever, and all of a sudden you have a young kid throwing your food in the back of his car under Uber Eats or something, delivering to your customers. You can't follow that chain and that plating. So you have to look at your boxing and so forth. We do a lot of fried food, doesn't necessarily travel well. So for us, it was really figuring out all that little meticulous things. We worked with a group out of Maryland too to just kind of revive the motto. So you'll have a more flow inside outside. I think everybody's trying to figure out how to capitalize more on the outside seating. So we'll do some physical improvements and just freshen up the brand. Again, I think for us it's important. And I have the utmost respect. I don't know how you go back and forth, Gricelda at Lindo. When we open up, we're going to open up. So, we wanted to make sure that we took the time, whether it was equipment, new POS system training, to really get 40 Acres 2.0 to hit the ground running. I think the other thing that's changed, and Vince kind of alluded to it, is the market has changed. I think prior restaurateurs were just abused. I mean, 7 days a week, you had to work 18 hours a day. It was just that competitive, and it was a very consumer-driven market. I think what COVID has done is kind of shifted that, and restaurateurs are now able to kind of craft their brand and their hours. Like, who would imagine that 40 Acres could only be open Thursday through Sunday and still, to Vince's point, do the same numbers and build up that momentum? The prior market would have dictated that you stay open 7 days a week and so forth. So just looking at the new market conditions, the blended model, I think you have to be 50% takeout, catering, even if you're dining. So really just being better at what we do. And for us being fluid, but not ever giving our brand. We never want to give you 25% of our brand. We never want you to have a 50% 40 Acres experience. So yeah, we're just getting ready to roll out at 100.
Real quick to touch on James's point. So I agree with everybody. I think we're all doing a version of the same things. I was telling my team, it's like, where are the dogs barking? What are we not seeing? And so depending if you're a small restaurant, depending if you built a brand, depending if you've been in for 25 years, 3 years, 5 years, then I think it becomes a conversation of like, how can we map to our success? And so, for example, like I alluded earlier, I'm cool on the internet. And so, James and I are up to the same kind of things. I'm building out Shopify. I think my biggest thing is like I think mom and pop shops, people like me, during the pandemic, people were coming from Detroit, Chicago. They come to my restaurant during the pandemic for only weekend service to get takeout and then go back. So that shows me that, okay, our brand through an Instagram post and through a video has touched so many people. I've only been around for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So where are the dogs barking? I need to create something different. And for me, it's like direct to consumer. So I think if you're a restaurant and you have a brand, not just a local brand, but a brand that can touch people outside, this is your opportunity to become a direct to consumer product. And that's what we've been working on for the past 8 months. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna launch soon, and that's gonna be my business model. I still care about my experience because that's why people bought into me and bought into my business even more so. But I'm now on the internet, and making money on the internet is the thing. And I want more restaurateurs and people who are thinking about getting into the restaurant business. So like, hey, watch what Uber Eats is doing. Watch what these people are doing. Why are they in that business and not in the other business? Why is Uber Eats not opening up a whole bunch of restaurants, but they want to do delivery? Mm-hmm. Right? They want to own your customer. Why do they want to own your customer? Like, you have to go through and get out of the we make tacos or we make jerk chicken or we make steak for a hot second and think bigger. And we live in a small market, so it's kind of hard sometimes because we're in West Michigan, we are in Grand Rapids, and we're kind of in a bubble. But to Bistro Bellevita's point, to my point, why can't you not sell a sauce, right? Mm-hmm. And that could cover your base. Now you're in a different business. And I think that sets you up 36 months from now, 48 months from now in a really good position, especially when a lot of people can be coming in. Who knows what's going to happen with our economy? I think that is the opportunity for everybody. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think, like Darel said, it seems like things have flipped a little bit. The restaurateurs are actually in a little bit more in the driver's seat now. Consumers and all of us who go to restaurants, we just took everything for granted. Everybody needs to be open all the time. And when all of a sudden all that was taken away from us as consumers, suddenly we started realizing and appreciating the food, the experience, and everything else. And so I don't know that, I hope that consumers don't go back to the old mindset where, they don't appreciate that and they just feel like everything's available all the time. But there's some interesting trends, and we can go into this after if we have other questions. But a lot of what you said, I have written down. The National Restaurant Association did some top 10 trends for 2021 based on what has transpired during the pandemic, and a lot of it is what you guys talked about. Streamlined menus. I think it forced people to streamline what can your team do really well? What can a small team do really well? How does it transport? If it's going to be takeout, it's got to be the kind of food that can carry through that. Off-service or off-premise food service, blended meals. Maybe talk about that a little bit. Like people are going to restaurants and maybe ordering things and taking things home to work with meals that they're cooking at home. Side dishes, appetizers. Alcohol, takeout alcohol, meal kits, bundled meals. There's like so many things that have come out of this that I think are not going away. So interesting.
Yeah, that's why all that's happening. There's still people are going to go out to eat.
Right.
So we can't live in this bubble forever. Because it's not going to, people are going to go out to eat. Now, what's going to change is the industry about 10 years ago really started to change from a labor pool, and that labor pool in the bigger markets, even in as a generational change, it shifted the point of we had less people coming that wanted to work in our industry because their parents. It's kind of like related to the manufacturing. I grew up, my parents, the good job was, doing manufacturing, but who wanted to do that? I didn't want to just go sit on a line and make X amount of dollars and retire at 65. That sounded like, to me, did not sound good. So people that grew up in the restaurant industry, similar, it's like they saw their parents as working way too much or, long hours, especially if they own the restaurants. So there was a drain in our industry. So food and everything shifted to more easy, comfortable, smaller. And then the addition of technology that was happening pre-pandemic, the creativity was lost. And, it was rated by Michelin star restaurants were going down every year. Chefs were quitting, getting out of the business in France, New York, the bigger markets. And that shifted down into what we were doing, where people wanted meatloaf and simpler meals. As chefs, we had to give them things that were less creative. And now during the pandemic, now everybody's eating at home. And I think you're going to see this resurgence back to some degree of creative, artful dining again, which is to Darel's standpoint, it puts the onus back on us. And it's really our job to determine what people want. And we got way too much into meeting their wants. And we got just stuck in this spiral where we're self-fulfilling prophecy, which we're basically telling them don't come to eat because we're just cooking what you can cook at home. Mm-hmm. And that was starting to really hurt our industry with the onset of all these Chipotles and whatnot that we had to compete against. So I see this as a great opportunity to go out and grab that creative market again and do the things that chefs and restaurateurs to be creative again. Stuff you can't do at home. That's the whole art of dining is, somebody eats something like, I can't do that at home. I can't have that experience. Right. And then you walk away and we clean up after you, So, I think that's going to be one of the things that we see as an opportunity for a sit down, but that will help continue to drive our industry and bring employees back into it. Mm-hmm. And so.
And I think, Laurie, we're not trying to figure out, or I guess pick a group. I think restaurateurs are trying to embrace all of it, right? So, I mean, we're going to like a blended service model. So, I mean, if you want to sit on a patio and order off a URL and you're comfortable with that, that's fine. If you want to sit at the bar and have full service and have traditional dining, like Jim said, and plated food, that's fine. If you want to come in with the family and just sit down and so forth. So I think the use of technology has really expanded how we serve customers. So we're able to do a lot more, I guess, with a lot less time span, if that makes sense. Where before you always had to choose a business delivery model. And now we have the ability, when we open up, to really be a full service sit down restaurant, a full service catering restaurant, and a full service takeout restaurant, right? And I mean, technology has really blended that, and then COVID has made it seamless. I mean, it's like, so again, I think those of us who come out on the other end, if you've made some tweaks and you're not just trying to open up like you did before, as far as a business model, the restaurant business, it may actually be okay. Now, I say that with a caveat, like nobody on this call has a lot of sense, right? Restaurateurs aren't in the business because we don't like risk. I mean, it's a risky business with slim margins that goes 100 miles an hour and you can't dictate the market. So I think part of that is why we're in the game, right? So yeah, us we'd be bankers.
Yeah. Well, and on that, our industry, why it's so difficult, our sales per employee is so low.
Right.
So it just adds so much complexity. So to Vincent's point earlier, what he was tapping into 100% is we need to get sales without adding employees. I mean, that's just a reality. If we don't do that, I don't care where you are in this industry, that you're just going to lag behind because you're dealing with, it's like having a POS system. That's why I said, I need to get out of this POS system. I have computer problems I had 30 years ago, and the same ones 2 years ago. And I have to get out of the IT business. And by doing that, I'm allowed to add and create sales without adding employees, because they're not coming to, I'm not doing it because I'm, mean old owner guy, want to keep all the money. It's just, there's not enough employees that want to work in it. And it gives us more freedom to and create a better working environment for employees as well, which is awesome for us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's I definitely agree. I think right now when we just opened on Tuesday again at 25%, and I was debating whether, okay, how do I set this up so it's efficient and it's not so stressful for everyone, even for the customer, for the staff, and with the staff that I have. So we decided to go by reservation only. So we are at 25% reservation only. And so far, and it's been 2 days, but it's been very smooth. We love it. Our customers love it. And of course, if somebody walks in and we have a table available that has not been reserved, we gladly sit them down. One of the things that my team tells me, the servers especially, is, Gricelda, we miss the interaction with the customers. We miss that because Lindo is not a takeout place. It was not designed to be a takeout place. Mm-hmm. Our model is to provide service and experience in person. Mm-hmm. And so, one of them said, it just doesn't feel the same. I cannot talk to my customers. I cannot talk to them. And it just feels so sad. And so that's one of the things that they tell me, and all of them tell me the same thing. We miss that interaction. I cannot give them the experience that I know they deserve because I have so many restrictions. And all I can say is, hey, let's do our best. Just remind them that under your mask, you are still smiling. Smile with your eyes. So, but that is one of the things that we do miss a lot too, and our team does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very true.
If I was Gricelda, Darel, or James, I would be like, fuck, but then I also be like, we gotta crush our experience. That is the thing. From our Instagram to our website to when we hand you a food, what do we put in our bags? Are our bags branded? Are we giving you 5% off the next time? Like, because what's gonna happen in 30, it's gonna be all these people are gonna be in the business. There's gonna be ghost kitchens. They're all gonna be selling jerk chicken, or they're all gonna be selling fried chicken. They're all gonna be selling tacos, or like. So, to James' point, you're gonna have to be creative with food.
Yep.
But people care, especially in West Michigan. We're not New York, we're not Chicago, we're not Detroit. People care about experience. They want to come in, so they want to bring their kids. They want to get a good drink, a good beer, a good steak, or whatever it is, right? And so, you know, my focus would be, how could I crush our experience from as soon as you become aware of our brand, you come in our brand, and when you leave our brand, that we become a thing that you want to come to, right? Like, there should be, I can kind of get aggressive sometimes, so my teams know this, but there should be no Bob Evans, Applebee's, Logan's after in Grand Rapids. There should be only local restaurants who are crushing that well through experience, right? Like, technology is one thing. Like, yes, we all got Shopify, we all got online ordering, we'll crush that, and that should be perfect. But there should be no decision making of, we're going to go to Applebee's instead of a local restaurant during a pandemic recession era. Like, that should not be a conversation for customers. So if any customers are listening, like, please make those smart decisions. Like, hey, we are investing in the community. We put our blood, sweat, and tears in this, and, you know, that has to be the thing. Like, they have to want to support us. You know, I know we all saw Wendy's and the Taco Bells and the Culver. They were blowing up during the pandemic. I've never seen those many lines, and I was like, wow, like, people don't even want to walk into these small restaurants and order takeout sometimes. And it's crazy to me. It's like, this is the guy who's hired 300 people, you know, like, from nothing. You know, these are the things that matter, unless you want your city to be completely just changed, which I don't think anybody wants it to be like that, right? So we have to crush with our experience. We have to win our customer. We have to do even more for our customer. I think that's the conversation, right? And hopefully they'll allow us to be more creative, though, right? Like, all right, we're gonna do this for you. Can you let us be more creative on the food end, so that we can make this experience, and, you know, our margins better. I was telling my team the difference between a margin and a markup is brand. And so the better we can build a brand, the better we can have a market, the better business we can have, the more people we can hire, the better business model we can develop, the better things we can bring. And so I hope customers are ready for that, because that's what's going to happen. You know, maybe the new guys who come in on a cheap rent because, like, a restaurant failed, they didn't have to pay that build out, can be more aggressive. But we've been in the business forever, so we don't have those costs, like those cheap costs. We hold all those costs. So it has to be, you know, it's going to be interesting. I feel like it's going to be something that I don't know what's going to happen. I just think we just have to try our best, right? And I think you guys, Gricelda, Darel, and James, do a great job with experience. And so if I were you guys, like, including me, I'm like, that's what we have to crush. End of story. 48 months, experience. That's it.
And you have to deliver that experience. I mean, you're spot on. And I think the game and the fun part of restaurateurs now is delivering that experience to you across channels, right? Yeah. So whether it's coming into 40 acres, whether it's delivered through Uber Eats, whether it's delivered from our restaurants, whether it's a box service, whether it's our sauce off the shelf, how is everything 40 acres experience? Like, and I think that piece of it is really, that's what we've been focused on. And again, I think a lot of people are just packaging their food to go. Like, you get some styrofoam, you get a little black, like, that's gonna be done. Like, I think you have to deliver your customer experience has to be consistent, no matter where they're getting that food. And to me, that's the exciting part, because now it's branding, it's culture, it's everything that's complementary to the food. So the food becomes kind of the magnet, but it's all the other stuff you put around it. And I think everybody on this call is doing a great job with that. But yeah, now you don't have to go to the Grove, right? You'll get a box that says, not the Grove or Bistro, and you'll get a box and you're having that experience with the same wine, but you're at home, right? But that's that experience. And I think a lot of us we're just catching up to that. I mean, we've been brown bagging it and the black containers, but containers, the image, your logo, all of that is
what does Apple do? What does Nike do? Right. That's what we have to think at our small level. Obviously, we're not Nike.
Right.
We sell food. You know, I'm not saying that we're there, but, you know, what can we add to our experience? I keep every Nike box and every Apple box that I have. What can I give to my customer that they keep a sticker or something, like a coloring book for kids? Like, let's take it so far it makes no sense, but it makes sense in the long tail. You know?
Yeah, I think that's the unique. You know, brand is everything, but what we have, local independent ownership restaurant, is our culture, and culture trumps process, and culture is everything. You can't invent culture. Culture is created, through the values that you as an owner implement into your business. We, in essence, our mission this year is lead with our values. And that's something that got us through the pandemic. And it's just something that, it drives everything we do. And that's the uniqueness that when I see non-independent restaurants come downtown and just, we're spending all this money and we're hiring this chef and this GM and I just sit back and go, we're going to beat them with culture. And sure sugar that one of those restaurants is gone. And because eventually you can't buy culture. Culture is from the inside out. And that's the uniqueness that we have in Grand Rapids is downtown is that, it's really cool what we're able to offer down here. And, in surrounding areas too, you're starting to expand it out where Vincent is, and just those opportunities weren't there 10 years ago. It wouldn't be opening, but we have more culture and it's just slowly developing from the inside out, and people appreciate that. And if they don't, then they're going to be stuck with the same blasé. Because 20 years ago, Grand Rapids was not a food destination, and we're slowly, really, truly becoming, and this is representing this group panel here, is how the culture is driven by authentic cuisine. And that is, to me, what's exciting, that we have these opportunities and experiences now that we can experience different cultures. And that's huge for the food industry, because food is so important to every culture. And that's what is in it, representing it in a community like this is really cool.
Yeah. Murphy, I think we have a couple more questions.
We do. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of activity in the comments about restaurants. So the next question is about the future of winter outdoor dining, what you see as the future. And this person noted, architects and designers are now designing innovative outdoor dining spaces that allow for outdoor dining where it isn't so much last minute, we need to do something outside now.
Yeah. I don't have any of those things, so I'll let them go.
Again, like all these restaurants that opened up in the fourth quarter, you have to be careful because we're still in a pandemic. So getting too far ahead of yourself and spending money, I think, would be my one warning. But clearly, it's going to be people are going to want to eat outside still in the winter. I think that's something that if you're able to incorporate it into your long-term plan, but just don't, just be smart about it, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree with James. Just be smart about it. It's it's almost like on my drive-through window that I put in the patio. It works now, but I don't think it's something that's going to work in the long term. I know it's not going to work in the long term. And so, but I do agree that I want to start thinking about how can I redesign my patio so that because the patio it's just open. So even if it rains, people can't sit outside. So I think that I have to implement and think of a design that would work, but not for the winter time. I know that it's something that I'm not thinking of doing for the long term, but something more for like, okay, if it rains, people can still be outside. But yeah, so minimal changes that can last a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think outdoor dining clearly right now is a novelty because there's not a lot of indoor options. But I mean, thinking long term, how sustainable is that? And how, are next year people going to be wanting to sit outside, and 2 years from now in the dead of winter? I think it's.
Yeah. I think that's like, if you have an option, it's 25 degrees. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's your only option. Yeah, then you want to go out to eat, you do that. But if I have an option to go somewhere inside and it's 72 degrees, I think I might choose the 72 degrees.
72. I know I would.
But I do think extending the outdoor dining season for places like Michigan, where we do have winter.
Well,
yeah. But extending it maybe into late fall, and maybe if it's a mild winter, I do think people enjoy that.
We've had it awnings both our patios, so that's something we're excited about.
I would say just quick thoughts. Actually, this may just change my opinion. I actually would bet on outdoor dining, but it would have to be winterized and weatherized and real warm, because we do have winter still here. And if you do have the space, it would make a lot of sense if you could do the experience right. But it can't be sit outside under this BS heater and it's 25 degrees outside. Yeah. So if you're going to invest in it and make it something that is spring, all 4 seasons, because that's what we experience here in Michigan, and don't half-ass it. But also still think about your build out for your restaurant. It's not cheap to build it out. So if you're thinking about doing it, just be smart. But I do think actually a winter vibe could be sick if you do it right. But that's going to be a lot of money. So your bet is going to be, we're going to be crushing it in the winter. And so maybe you got to invest in parking as well. You got to it's going to be a lot. But I actually could bet on it if it made sense. Other than that, inside.
I also think too, it depends. I mean, right now the city is accommodating a lot of the outdoor dining. So I don't know how long-term, that is, either from the perspective of, allowing people to extend further out into sidewalks and things like that. So,
that grant that I mentioned earlier that I applied for, one of the requirements was that whatever I installed was temporary, which kind of seemed ridiculous to me. I'll be honest. I almost got upset because I said, I'm going to spend all this money on something that's going to be temporary. Mm-hmm. Why not just give me the money on something that I can do that will be permanent, that will help me in the long run, not just right now. So mm-hmm. I'm grateful I got it, but it almost seems to me almost like a waste of money in a sense, just because I have to tear it down later on, where if, I would have used that money, I would have probably built something more permanent in the patio. And so, I guess whoever is, developing these grants out there, hey, just kind of maybe involve a restaurant owner in there and those decisions and requirements.
That is a good point. I mean, there were a lot. The grants are awesome, and so not really speaking of the financial grants, because restaurateurs usually were able to dictate what they did with it, but a lot of the help that we got in business districts and so forth, I don't know how many restaurateurs asked for it. You know what I mean? I don't know that if you gave us a chance to have an igloo sitting outside, or to do something, to add a Shopify channel to increase takeout, we would have said, give us an igloo. So I think we got a lot of warm and fuzzy ideas for the winter from a city standpoint, and come to the community and so forth. But it has not resulted into real dollars, I guess, because the event is winter. I mean, at 25 degrees, you're going to always get extreme people who are willing to do it. But I'll go out. You can't make a market of people who are willing to sit out in 25 degrees. And this is not to knock anybody or culture that is okay with sitting out in 25 degrees, but definitely not the constituency of 40 acres. So yeah, you'll never see a winter patio experience or a winter so, but again, I applaud, the business districts in the city of Grand Rapids for simply, they wanted to do something, you know what I mean? And so I applaud those efforts.
Well, it took a pandemic for them to do things we should have done 20 years ago. It's shocking to me that these are things that creative cities do, and we want to be this new city, and yet here we haven't done a damn thing. We still just want to shove cars through it, not people. And it's just, I've been on committees, I've sat on these things where we spent money on all these great plans over the being a downtown business owner, and nothing. It's just Fulton is still like a moat with sharks. It's so hard to cross. We just so it took a pandemic and to kill people for the city to wake up and to make some changes that other cool cities been doing for 20-30 years. I mean, it's so hopefully we can work with us us owners to implement these things, so they don't look at back. That's what my feedback was. Don't put up cement blocks. Let's just make decisions because everybody in the community, they're going to agree with it. Every stakeholder and citizen is going to want to enjoy walking in a city. I mean, it just feels safer, and it feels just more inclusive, and and it creates more diversity, and it's just all the positives. And that just felt outside the community, beyond that. You have to have a Noid to gather, and downtown needs to be that place, Grand Rapids. So
wait, so I have a question, James. I don't know if this is the format, but I'm gonna ask a question to James. So you've been in the business for 20 plus years, obviously. Do you think we're gonna ever become the cool city? Because I drive around, I don't understand why we're not yet. It's not that big.
No,
and there's a lot of money here, so it doesn't add up.
Yeah, I think the problem is the generation. So it just takes time. We're 20 years into this, really, if you think about it, or so. So I think in what the change the next 10 years is going to be, I think, pretty cool. I think you'll finally see the layering, and that's just purely through generation. It's just going to change because of ownership. Look at you guys are younger than me, and you weren't here. People in minority businesses weren't here 20 years ago doing what you guys were doing. They just weren't. And now they are. And that's part of it. And this is adding that layer, and we'll make it richer and just more enjoyable and more inclusive for everybody. I mean, it's just, we're Grand Rapids was known as Bland Rapids for a reason. And it's cool to see it change. It's palpable now. And I just think we're just at the beginning, and the pandemic will hopefully help because it's put a spotlight on the importance of independently owned restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely. Murphy, do we have another question? Okay.
We do. So this is a long question. With the rise of delivery orders through apps, does anybody on the panel see a world where ghost kitchens become more popular or more viable? Do you view ghost kitchens as another potential channel for already established restaurants, or do you view them as a negative thing in the market?
Oh, this is such a deep question.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Darel.
Off the top of mind, I think it's a hard existing restaurant model to do. If you're a caterer or a up and coming chef, something like that, I think a ghost kitchen, if you can find one, is probably a great business model considering how much money we have into our kitchens and they sit empty. So I think there is a model within the ghost kitchen. I don't think ghost kitchens will replace restaurants or so forth. And it hasn't come up. I don't know how you build a viable restaurant model off of food delivery services. They're gouging. They're taking 40% of your money. Like, you literally just doing it just to be relevant. So if you're getting Uber Eats, if you're calling your local restaurant and you're going through a third party Uber Eats meal, whatever that is, please know that you're just paying that third party app. That restaurant is making absolutely zero money. Now we have PPP right now and stuff to subsidize it to make it look good, but it'll be interesting to see how many businesses really find that. I liken it to like a Groupon phase, right? Where everybody was going Groupon and then they figured out Groupon makes more money than the damn company. But we did it like these delivery companies make more per plate than the damn restaurant. So I just don't see any viable business model with a third-party delivery system. And I think it's very hard to build your brand if you don't have this physical location or so forth. But if you're an existing caterer and you have some orders and all that, I think the shared kitchen model works anywhere, something like a downtown market. Now, can we, spatially enlarge that and use church kitchens and restaurant kitchens and so forth? Yeah, I definitely think there's a model in there, but.
Yeah, like anything, it's the ghost kitchen thing has been talked about. I think it's more of a fad than a trend. It will fade away as we settle back into, if we do this from a year from now, I'll be curious some of the things we're saying, what will happen, because then now it will settle in. But I don't think the ghost kitchen thing, it will be something, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not not sold on it yet. That I 100% agree with Darel. A third party delivery, it's just that we don't do it because our brand is everything. Now it can work for some, I understand, but when we did delivery through our system online. It's just at Bistro in Greenwell. You know, we do it ourselves. So we still offer it downtown during the week at Bistro. Last night we had 2 deliveries. So we had one of the servers just get his car and and shoot it out to somebody. You know, we won't do it on weekends, but yeah, I mean, these things, again, like we talked on the top, they're all, it's depending on what you're doing uniquely. What I'm doing is different, and I have 3 different concepts. So even within those concepts, what I do is different because they meet different people. So it's where we meet, and then understanding that point of where we meet, and then how do we be able to lower the barriers to get to our brand.
Yeah, and I personally don't see it either as something that you can do long term. It could work right now because of the pandemic, but it's like Darel say, these delivering companies, they're taking 30%, and it's just ridiculous unless you own that delivering company. Then
and messing up your food, and your food comes. I mean,
you have no idea how many times I had to tell the drivers, "Hey, don't tilt this bag. Be very careful, okay? There is glass in here, so you have to be careful." So it's just us paying attention to that. So yeah, I think it might work for some people right now, but again, it depends on the model and your long-term goals.
So before the pandemic, I actually was going to build a ghost kitchen, and so I kind of went through the whole process. And so for Grand Rapids, you have 2 options. If you do it, then your goal is to destroy every other local restaurant downtown. Like, that's the only way you win. And I know it's just kind of aggressive take. Our city is just not big enough. Detroit, Chicago's, New York's, the LAs of the world, the Houstons of the world, 100% move there, open a ghost kitchen, you'll crush. And I think that you manage a lot of your own delivery. You use Uber, Grubhub to do some CAC, get your own customers. Again, you have to probably put things in your restaurant. You only hire chefs, and you streamline everything, right? That's how you do it. That's how it works. The only issue is, in our market, is not viable long term, because what you're gonna have to do is either mimic the hot restaurants right now, or take a bet that people are gonna like a porridge only restaurant or a duck only restaurant. You have to be so creative. And dude, people like steak and potatoes here. You know how hard is it to get people to eat jerk chicken in Grand Rapids? I couldn't even imagine trying to do something so creative and outside the box, and people are gonna love it here on a delivery model, not an experience model, right? So if you're planning on doing one, please don't waste any investors' money. Please don't waste your money. Just try to open something small. Maybe change the concept every 2 weeks. That'd be kind of cool. But doing a full build out ghost kitchen, we're talking about 8 to 10 days. So you can have 8 to 10 different restaurants. That's a big operation. You know what I'm saying? That's not easy to do. If you're not a chef yourself, or you don't been in the industry, you're walking into something that's going to blow up in your face. Now, again, Detroit, LA, New York, Chicago, go ahead. I think it will work. In West Michigan, it's going to be very hard to really break through.
Now, what I do think will work in West Michigan as a ghost kitchen is from the brewery standpoint. There's so much money in those brew equipment and so many empty vats. So if I was to start a brewery, or if I wanted to do something like that, I think that go bananas as far as a ghost kitchen, and probably would be a win-win for the market. But yeah, to come use my oven, my fryers, my hot, that's it. Just because I can barely manage my own back of the house. I mean, just quite honestly, can you imagine? I yell up. You already got staff who don't close down right now. You're coming in to open, and your kitchen's been used. So I mean, just logistically, I think it causes a lot of problems. But in drink and in breweries, I could definitely see some.
That's a good point. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
Well, I just gave that to y'all for free, so whoever's listening.
We are out of time this morning, and I think we probably could just keep talking. But I think what maybe we'll do is come back 6 months from now and do this again and see where we are and see what's happening in the community. And I think it'll be really interesting. So I want to thank all you for being here this morning. I know you're all very busy, but I think it was a great discussion, and I look forward to continuing it. So thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Take care, everybody.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.